So I'd like to call this meeting regular council of July 6, 2021 to order at 7:05 p.m. We will stay seated for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. We will move on with the mayor's address. I want to start by acknowledging the effort of staff for the organization and planning of our virtual Canada Day celebrations. It was unfortunate that staff experienced some major technical difficulties they valiantly tried to overcome, but eventually had to surrender to unreliable technology. Staff has taped the various presentations and is compiling a video that can be viewed on YouTube. I want to thank our fire department volunteers, Jill, Sparky, our summer students, and the musical entertainers for their contribution, as well as Warden Robinson, MPP John Yakubuski, Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Bergewell, and members of council that provided their Canada Day greetings. We received good news, and that is NRTC has received $2.3 million to expand their fiber network to our municipality, providing a significant improvement to our internet bandwidth, speed, and reliability. On June 15th, 2021, I attended the Local Immigration Partnership Community Consultation Session hosted by Algona College Pembroke, which you will hear about from Joey Goopals's delegation. On June 24th, 2021, I attended the Shawwoods AGM and regular meeting. Shawwoods has purchased an all-terrain mountain bike, which is due to arrive this month. The trike will be available by reservation for persons of all ages and can be pushed, pulled, or self-propelled. In addition, all three school boards have agreed to a one-year funding extension for their Shawwoods education program visits. I want to extend congratulations to Nora Shea for the Senior Citizen of the Year Award. We wish Nora well in her retirement from Eganville District Senior Center. Work on the 4th Street Bridge rehabilitation will begin this week with an expected completion in October. A pedestrian bridge will be installed to allow for foot traffic. As of Wednesday, June 30th, 2021, 71% of Renfrew County residents have received their first dose of COVID vaccine, and 27% have received their second dose. Keep up the great work. Finally, to our staff that are taking a vacation this summer, we hope you enjoy your holidays, relax, enjoy, and stay safe. That is my mayor's address, but I'm wondering if you could bring up the county report, because there are a couple of things I want to highlight for council. So two things that happened at County Council. We passed two resolutions. The first one, the council directs staff to investigate options to design and initiate a reconciliation garden on the grounds of the county administration building to honor and recognize the individual and collective rights and freedoms of all people to live in a state of dignity and respect, which should be the foundation of our relationship with First Nations. And the second resolution, that council directs staff to investigate training options for county staff and council that would provide education on the history of Canada's Indigenous peoples, including the legacy of residential schools, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, treaties and Indigenous rights, Indigenous law, and Indigenous Crown relations. And further, that staff begin a dialogue with the Algonquins of Ontario and the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan on ways to advance efforts for reconciliation within the county of Renfrew. Also, the county has enacted a flag protocol policy for Renfrew County, and this policy can certainly be shared with the lower tier municipalities if we choose to adopt it for our own bylaws. County Council has also approved the draft official plan amendment OPA number 31 for public consultation. And these meetings then will be advertised so that the public can attend and review the Planning Act so that the draft can be ratified. And then 30,000 Ottawa Valley road maps and 20,000 cycling maps have been received for distribution to the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association. And these maps are scheduled for delivery to all households in Renfrew County. Also, another good news story for our municipality: on May 15th, 2021, local resident Ray Bonenberg was inducted into the International Maple Hall of Fame located in Croghan, New York. This is in recognition of his decades of service to the maple syrup industry here in Ontario and his influence on policy, sugar bush and maple tree management best practices, and professional development for all maple producers. There's also a trail usage report attached to your agenda, and County Council approved the entire seniors housing work plan dated June 21st, 2021. And once again, this plan is available on the county website. So that's it for the county news. And I believe there's just the trail usage report, which is attached, but I'll let you read that at your perusal. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? I see none. So we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes of June 15th. Sorry, missed one step here. I have a resolution that the July 6, 2021 Mayor's Address and the County Update be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Councillor Burns? Yes. Councillor Buchwald?
Yes.
Councillor Robinson?
Yes.
Councillor Recchi-Schonfeld?
Yes.
Yes, that's carried. Thank you.
Mayor Bruce,
Yes.
I just have one comment to make. I went out last Thursday night, and I attended Light at the Lake for what the natives did down in the reserve, and there was a really good turnout of people. The bridge going to the reserve was just packed, and I went around that in the drive, and it was pretty well all full of cars, so we had a really good turnout for that event.
That's
And
great.
there's a lot of people had the lights on for that, and candles out for $4.
Great news. So item number 5 is the adoption of the minutes of June 15th, 2021. I have a resolution that the June 15th, 2021 regular council meeting minutes be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Recchi-Schonfeld, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Are there any additions, corrections, or omissions? I would just like the minutes to indicate that one member of council still has to complete the mandatory harassment training sometime before the end of 2021. So I've just added that council minutes be accepted as amended. Councillor Burns?
Yes.
Councillor Buchwald?
Yes.
Councillor Robinson?
Yes.
Councillor Recchi-Schonfeld?
Yes.
And a yes, that's carried. Thank you. So that brings us to our delegation, and with us tonight, we are pleased to welcome Judy Buchholz. Judy is in charge of the local immigration partnership for Lanark Renfrew, and she's here to do a presentation for our council on some of the steps that have been taken moving forward. Please welcome Jody. Jody, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me and for inviting me to this evening's council meeting. I do have a bit of a presentation to share, so if I could take over the share screen for a moment, that would be great. Thank you. So it's a quick presentation this evening. going to start with a little bit of background about who Local Immigration Partnership is for those who are maybe a little less familiar, what we do, and how we can partner in the future. So again, thank you so much for having me. My name is Jody Buchholz, and Local Immigration Partnership is a federal contract that's funded by Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, as we like to, we love our acronyms. And our role is really to bring together different groups within the community. So whether that be settlement agencies, service providers, community groups, municipal leaders, like those of you around the room this evening, to work towards creating a welcoming community for our newcomer population. And a newcomer population is typically someone who's been in the community, whether a direct immigrant who has moved to our area within the last 1 to 3 years is typically who we consider to be a newcomer, but we do kind of expand that definition of newcomer to be a little bit longer than 3 years in the area as well. And Local Immigration Partnership, or LIP as we affectionately refer to ourselves, was actually formed in the area in 2011. We are a lean team. We're a team of 3 as it stands. We will have a 4th team member joining the crew shortly, but we have 2 research officers. So Sumit Chowdhury as well as Shazad Ghani are our 2 research officers, and we will have a project assistant joining us shortly. So a small but mighty team. And really, we depend on our advisory council to help guide us in the work that we should be doing. So our membership of our LIP Advisory Council includes representatives from municipalities, school boards, post-secondary education, as Lanark and Renfrew both have a post-secondary campus with Algonquin College, employment services, labor market planning groups, economic development offices, employers, and government services. So as it stands now, we have 7 members on our Lanark County Council and 13 members on our Renfrew County Council. And so we will, we continually look to grow our council within reason, as we do have combination meetings, but also standalone meetings depending on the focus of our council meetings. Our primary services are research, knowledge sharing, and facilitation. And I have a couple examples of that this evening to go over. So some examples of our current research that we're taking part of is that Local Immigration Partnership was actually selected by the Canada Excellence Research Chair, or CERC, in Migration and Integration Program through Ryerson University to partner on their research project on why migrants stay in small and mid-sized Canadian cities. So this is a new initiative that we are privileged to be part of. So we will be helping to facilitate that research across Renfrew and Lanark County, so that we can get a better sense of why those who we no longer consider to be newcomers, so those who have been long-term residents, why they stay in our area. What are the reasons that brought them here and made them stay, so that we can better build our capacity to recruit and retain newcomers to our area. We have also partnered with Dr. Ryan Gibson, who is a Libero Professorship in Regional Economic Development with the University of Guelph, and the Canadian Rural Revitalization Foundation to examine non-newcomer preparedness. So this means those who are non-newcomers, what is their capacity to welcome newcomers in the area? What are some of the areas that we need to look to better prepare ourselves for a greater newcomer population? And then, of course, we partner with Algonquin College. Algonquin College's Pembroke campus actually holds our contract, our LIP contract, but we do partner with the colleges to examine the experiences of the international student populations at both campuses, as both rural campuses do, they have a focus energies on growing their international student population within reason while still maintaining support for our domestic students. With regards to knowledge sharing programs, we have a newly developed speaker series where we are welcoming those who have a lot of knowledge into our community, especially with the virtual environment, which has been great. We have had Dr. Ryan Gibson, who has spoken on attracting immigrants to rural areas. We were also joined by former Governor General Yasser Naqvi on how rural communities can address racism and welcome newcomers. And most recently, we had Elder Amy Bailey for our Indigenous History Month knowledge sharing on the Strawberry Moon, where we also facilitated a virtual talking circle. So between these 3 speaker series, we actually had upwards of 350 participants, which has been fantastic. So we've had really good feedback on the speaker series. We're also working on some events. So we are partnering with the Pembroke Library on their multicultural event, or festival rather. And we are also working with Ottawa LIP to expand their, what they call WOW, or their Welcome Ottawa Week. So each week there's a week in June, actually it's more like 2 weeks in June each year, where they have a big multicultural celebration. And we're going to be expanding that into Lanark and Renfrew County. So there's probably going to be a slight name change, but LIP, Renfrew, and Lanark County are going to be part of that next year as well. Around the facilitation part, we do deliver cultural diversity training workshops. So starting in September, we will be delivering free once per month workshops to employers, frontline workers, community leaders, municipal leaders to develop their intercultural competency capacity. So we do have at this point, 1 workshop that we have set up, but we are growing that facilitation capacity with some additional training for our staff members so that we can continue to foster growth with our leaders in the community. We're also working towards Inclusivity, Diversity, and Equity Guide, which is in collaboration with the City of Pembroke. So as I'm sure many of you have read or seen, the City of Pembroke has, as well as Town of Renfrew, have done some really wonderful things around diversity advisory councils. So we're actually putting together a bit of a lessons learned, if you will, or a bit of a blueprint on how other municipalities can also work towards an inclusive, diverse, and equitable municipal plan or strategy. So those are some of the things that we're working on at this time. And when it comes to future state, so as Mayor Brose mentioned in his report, we are in the midst of our strategic planning process. So we have facilitated 4 community consultation sessions with a really wonderful cross-section of community leaders from both counties in a lot of different sectors, I should say. And from that, we have some emerging priorities that have presented themselves. So nothing is set in stone for our strat plan yet, but we do anticipate having that completed by mid-August this year. So some of the emerging priorities that were voiced is a link between main actors working towards welcoming communities. So that means that, and as we all know, we love to work in siloed areas. So we need to work together to attack or address our welcoming community strategy from a more of a county or a by-county perspective. Oop, a little bit backwards there, sorry. We are also seeing that there needs to be a bit of focus on positive attitudes towards immigration, cultural diversity, and the presence of newcomers in our community. We know that there are issues around racism and discrimination that have popped up across our county. And so we will be devoting some energies towards addressing the positive aspects for those who are unaware of them on what immigrants bring to our communities and how they really strengthen our communities. And then we have our local immigration partnership communication and integration. So for those of you who are unaware, I am fairly new to the local immigration partnership team. And it is what we've discovered from our community consultation sessions is that there needs to be more knowledge shared of what we do and who we are. And so information presentations like the ones here this evening are one of the ways in which we're going to better communicate us as a resource in our community and to help us also align with better partnerships as well. And based on that, you've heard it a couple times, partnership is our key to progress and additional project funding. So part of local immigration partnerships mandate is to actually seek additional funding. So currently we do have 2 funding applications out through Canadian Heritage as well as Public Health Canada for 2 fairly substantial projects that are focused on racism and discrimination. So we do hope that we are successful in those 2 funding applications, which would see our local immigration team grow to facilitate those projects and allow us to better integrate into the community to address some of these emerging priorities that have presented themselves during our community consultation sessions for our strategic planning session. So those are the emerging I knew there was one missing there, sorry. Employer outreach and support is also another priority that we are looking to focus on. So how do we properly support employers so that they are recruiting in a way that opens up opportunities for those who are not from our area? So as part of the recruitment process, as part of the work environment preparedness, and as well as the retention of newcomer populations. So there's a lot of skill sets that we know cannot be filled. There's a skilled labor shortage in our communities that we do believe that immigrants can fill. So how do we work with employers to ensure that that we're aligning our needs with the skill sets of immigrants and outside of our communities? So I do put it over to questions if anyone would like to ask me any questions about the presentation, presented information that was shared here this evening.
Thank you very much, Jody. So I'll turn it over to council to see if they have any questions for you. I see none. So thank you very much for your presentation and taking the time to join us tonight. Pleased to have you and look forward to the review of the strategic plan once it becomes available and the next steps. So thank you again, and we hope to see more of you in the future.
Wonderful. I look forward to connecting again in the future. Take care.
So back to our agenda. Item 7.1 is the tile drain loan. Sorry, just before we get to that, I have a resolution that council accepts the report from Judy Buchholz of Local Immigration Partnership Lanark Renfrew as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Reiki Schoenfeld. Councillor Burns?
Yes.
Councillor Buchholz?
Yes.
Councillor Robinson?
Yes.
Councillor Reiki Schoenfeld?
Yes.
And a yes, it's carried. Thank you. I have a resolution. The council approves a tile drain loan application for Doug and Linda Schultz in the amount of $7,800 for 24 acres in the geographic township of Wilberforce in Section 15, Part Lot 6, pending funding from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. You're going to move in a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Byrne, seconded by Councillor Reiki Schoenfeld. Comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Councillor Byrne?
Yes.
Councillor Buchholz?
Yes.
Councillor Robinson?
Yes.
Councillor Reiki Schoenfeld?
Yes.
I'm a yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.2 is the swim program. I have a resolution that council implements a free swim program, which includes supervised swimming 1 day a week at the Point Church Drive Beach. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Buchholz. Questions or comments? Councillor Robinson?
I'm just curious, like who would be supervising it?
So I'll ask staff if they can give a little more background.
We do have 3 qualified students that do have the qualifications for lifeguards. They are presently working with our Public Works Department, and so they would be supervising the free public swim program this summer.
Would there be consideration for more than one day, or at this point, is it just one day?
Oh, consideration could be given, yes, for more than 1 day per week.
Councillor Rector-Schonfeld?
People that want to participate just call the township office, is that the?
Yes, they will have to pre-register, so we would have a registration list, and they could call the township office.
Thank you.
Is there a limit on the number of students who could,
There is. The limit would be 24 students, first time slot. So 24 participants, swimmers.
any other comments from council? I would like to add, if we could, 2 days a week at least. If
If we do 3 swim events a week, and just change the resolution to say 3 swim events per week, and that way we could do possibly 3 afternoons, or 2 mornings and an afternoon.
So I'll take 1 day and put 3 swim events a week.
That would be good for it.
So I'll reread that council implements a free swim program which includes supervised swimming, 3 swim events per week at the Point Church Drive Beach. I'll call the vote. Councillor Burt,
Yes.
Councillor Buckwald,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Rector-Schonfeld,
Yes,
and a yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.3 is the fire department update, and we're pleased to have with us tonight Fire Chief Chad, and he's going to give us his report.
I think you've all had a chance to look at it. Are there any questions regarding the report itself about the activities in the fire department?
I'll look to council. Are there any questions? Councilor Rector-Schonfeld.
just one question, I think I know the answer. So when you say during the reporting period, that's the one underneath the title, right? So April until June 21st.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the only question I have is where are we right now as far as fire ban? I'm assuming we're in better shape with all the recent rain.
Correct, there is no fire ban in place.
Thank you.
Anything other than campfire still requires a permit. That's standard operating procedure.
Councilor, go ahead.
Permits are being issued now for small brush piles?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And the 2 motor vehicle collisions, did it require any extrication or?
It did not. Either one did, so we're very fortunate that way.
Yes, that's better that way.
Also included in the report was the status of the tanker.
Oh, yes, please talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so, as was indicated in the report, we brought it in for its annual safety as a commercial vehicle. They turned around and said that they weren't going to safety it because of the corrosion on the frame and the separation of the 2 pieces. They didn't present us with any sort of plan for repair. So after we looked at a number of different options, ranging from pushing the forecast replacement up ahead to, so we looked at accelerating the purchase of purchasing a used apparatus, we looked at leasing. We looked at purchasing a new cabin chassis and then moving our fire body onto it. And we looked at using one of the trucks that were here and moving the fire body onto it. After we went to a second garage, or a second opinion, we decided that they came up with a repair plan, which we felt was most economical of all options. And we went ahead with it. I stopped in there this afternoon. The frame part of the repair is essentially complete. They've got maybe about 3 hours left on that. And they have a little bit of work left to do on the exhaust system and the transmission, but it's coming forward as part of it, as the plan.
So when they're done the repair, can they do the certification or does it have to go to another?
They will do the safety there.
Well, that's good.
So we took it to, most of the road trucks go to the same garage.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Any other questions on the fire department reports? Oh, Councillor Buckle.
I know, I'm hiding here in the corner, nobody can see me. Just something, a question for the chief and for council's information. Because of the lead times that we're looking for sourcing another vehicle, should we consider starting the process already this year for replacing that? As I believe it was the next one on the list to be done, just so we can get a head start, because really this truck is at the end of its life, even with the repairs.
I don't expect the truck to survive past another year and a half to 2 years as it is, even with the repairs. Our people have gone ahead and developed an initial plan for what they'd like to see to replace it with. And at this point, it's to the next step is to get some budgetary pricing and then come back to the council and see what we can do.
And,
okay, thank you.
Once again, when it comes to replacing the truck, are we looking at about 2 years or even longer?
18 months to 2 years is very, very reasonable these days. Our existing pumper, once their bid was accepted in January of 2020, and we probably won't see it until October of this year.
So it's probably something we do have to look at sooner than later. Seeing no other questions, I need a mover and a seconder that council accepts the report as presented. Moved by Councillor Schoenfeld, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillor Burns.
Yes.
Councillor Buckwall.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Schoenfeld.
Yes.
I'm a yes. It's carried. Thank you. Item 7.4 is our auto extrication area report, and once again, I'll ask Chief Chan to speak to that.
All right. There was a meeting on the 24th of June among several of the fire chiefs in the area. Specifically, it was brought forward because of our inclusion of auto extrication in our services, that perhaps it was time to re-examine the borders that were set up years and years ago. Currently, the town of Petawawa comes down as far as Weather Station Road in the Township of Orange Valley, and the city of Pembroke comes as far as Mixford on the other side of Highway 41, also for Orange Valley. At the time, it made sense because our extrication was coming from Eagleville, so it was sort of middle ground. So what I'm looking for is permission to go ahead and enter into some negotiations with Orange Valley, Petawawa, and Pembroke to expand our area out. We haven't define what exactly how far that's gonna be. I'm thinking a couple of kilometers anyway, past our borders. And with the idea being that for 18 months, we do a dual response. We go along with them. We work with them. We learn from them. Because you can always learn something. So they can do it longer than you have. And then after that 18 months, we enter into an agreement with Laurentian Valley so that the Pellwall and Pembroke areas are shrunk and ours, we take over some of that area. During the 18-month dual response period, we wouldn't be getting any compensation for it because, of course, Laurentian Valley doesn't want to be paying twice.
Right.
But it's to me, it's a short-term pain for a long-term gain. And once the agreements are made up, then we get paid the same rate that Pellwall or Pembroke does. So Laurentian Valley wouldn't end up paying any more. They just have 3 agreements instead of 2.
Any questions from council for Chief Chen? I see none. I certainly do want to thank you for the effort that you've put into taking a look at those boundaries, and I think it's something that moving forward just makes a lot of sense. So can I get a mover and a seconder to accept the report as presented and authorize the fire chief to enter into negotiations with neighboring municipalities? Moved by Councillor Reiche-Schoenfeld, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, Councillor Burnt,
Yes.
Councillor Buchwald,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Reiche-Schoenfeld,
Yes,
and a yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.5 is the chief building official report. I have a resolution of council accepts the report as presented. Could I get a mover and a second, please? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Buchwald. Any comments or questions? Can we just have a look at the report, please? So just the only question I have is of the 23 permits. Do we know how many might be new homes, new builds?
We do have that information, that we can provide to council.
Thank you, that would be helpful. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Robinson.
I was with the price of materials right now, it was actually good to see 13 construction permits, whatever the size of them are.
And some of them, I believe, are also for septic systems.
Well, there were 9 for septics.
Yeah.
So
Councillor Reiche-Schoenfeld.
does this Helen, does she then like go out every day, or does she have 1 day a week she goes in?
Building, our building official is in the office 2 days a week, Tuesday and Thursday.
Seeing no further questions, Councillor Burnt,
Yes.
Councillor Buchwald,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
yes,
Councillor Reiche-Schoenfeld,
Yes,
and yes, it's carried. Thank you. Item 7.6 is our bylaw enforcement update. I have a resolution that council accepts the report as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Buchwald, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Comments or questions? Councillor Reiche-Schoenfeld.
and kind of the second last paragraph where it says the bylaw department has decreased the number of patrols. How many people go out on patrols?
Like I can answer that.
Okay,
So generally, it's one person going out on patrol, and these are patrols that are mandated by the province. Sometimes it's two, but depends on what they're doing. Any time that the officer is out, it's deemed a patrol.
Okay, thank you.
any further questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwald,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes,
Councilor Rector-Schoenfeld,
Yes,
and a yes. Carried, thank you. Item 7.7 is the proposal for drainage engineering. We have a resolution. The council accepts the proposal from JP2G Consultants Inc. in the amount of $29,650 plus HST to provide engineering services for Island View Drive boat launch culvert replacements. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Byrne, seconded by Councilor Buckle. Comments or questions? Yes, Councilor Robinson.
could staff elaborate on that for my ignorance?
Sure. In the, in 2020, council requested that several projects be put into the budget. Three were letters of opinion, one was actually for engineering, and the one for engineering is the one we're discussing right now. And that is near the boat launch on Island View Drive, there's two culverts that have been an issue for many years. And the concern is the spring runoff and water running over the road.
Sorry, go ahead, Councilor Byrne.
My first question is, where is the $29,000 and $30,000 coming from this, through this engineer report? And why wasn't this problem fixed before the road was rebuilt? Because like, we spent money on the road last year, and now we gotta tear up the road to replace the culverts. Like residents not gonna be very happy when we spend the money to fix the road, and now we gotta tear it up to fix the culverts that should have been fixed before the road was chipped.
If I may, that was a decision of council last year. Council was made aware of the issue last year, and council was informed that the work at that particular area could only happen after July 15th, and the road work happened before July 15th.
Councilor Rector-Schoenfeld.
so the engineering report is $29,650, and then in addition to that, then it's the cost of culvert and everything else. Then I'm just wondering why, because we knew we had to do it, why this wasn't part of our budget deliberations, and then everything might have been approved at that point.
I believe it was, and I believe there is money in the budget for the engineering. I would have to verify with staff on how much money.
Well, it does say, budget for drainage engineering, but I mean, the capital cost of the culverts and stuff like that, that wasn't included. That's what
I find the price high myself, and I would like to wait and maybe get a second opinion or a second estimate. Not necessarily opinion, but maybe another estimate, because I don't feel it's a priority that it has to be done this year, but that's certainly a council's decision. I just find that price is rather high. Yes, that's what I could say.
So just to echo what you said, because we truly never budgeted for the capital current, then to me, we're gonna take money out of reserves, and it seems we ended up taking lots of money out of reserves for the purpose of that building. So unless it's like a crucial thing to do, I'd rather be it in a hot file, so next budgeting year, then we're budgeting for that whole thing. Instead of us all of a sudden going, we have no reserves anymore because we've taken money out for different projects.
Councilor Blackwell, do you have a comment?
Yeah, the engineering estimate does seem a little bit high to me too. The only comment I would make is if we can get either this one done or a less expensive one, it's going to help our budgetary process for next year. Even if we don't do the work this year, if we know the scope of the work, it's a lot easier to budget for. So I think it would be good to, if we have enough money in the budget for engineering, an engineering of this, that we proceed with that this year and then make the decision whether or not we do the capital work in this year, either from a reserve draw or next year as a budgeted item. But I think the engineering we should definitely move forward with if we can find a satisfactory price from a provider.
So I guess the question is, with this resolution, do we want to wait and just direct staff to maybe come back with some other options, or maybe not even other options, but maybe try and get some other pricing? Councilor Robinson.
Well, I guess I would ask staff, because I know sometimes specific engineering for specific types of recommended services is difficult. Are they the only game in town?
The answer would be no. There's other options. If you want to tender out the estimate, you could do that. We had engaged one engineering firm to do the 4 projects that council approved in the budget. And it was a continuation of other work we've done. Getting an engineering firm in March when we engaged the engineering firm was more difficult than it would be in August this year, because of the availability of the COVID restrictions. Perhaps I can suggest that council just withdraw the report and that staff come back with a report in the future.
Sorry, what was that we
Just
withdraw?
withdraw the report.
So table it or withdraw it?
I'm suggesting withdrawal.
Would council agree with that, to withdraw this report until we get more information back from staff?
Yes.
Yes. So just a question, because the original resolution is on the floor, do I have to get the mover and seconder to agree to withdraw their moving and seconding?
Yes.
That was Councilor Burke and Councilor Buckwell. Would you agree to withdraw your move?
Yes, I'll withdraw the resolution.
Okay. So then we need a mover and a seconder to withdraw the report pending additional information from staff.
We will bring the report back another time. So
We just withdraw it.
we'll just withdraw and we will bring something back.
Okay. So item 7.8 is the RPF, PDOT Public Works 2021-06 award. I have a resolution that council accepts this report and awards RFP 2021-PW06 to RGT Pluche Construction Limited for $456,633, including HST. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councilor Ricky Schildfeld, seconded by Councilor Burke. And I'll just ask staff to provide some background, please.
Okay, so just the first thing, and we added this today, it should have been under a matter of urgency,
Yes.
and council should have made a decision whether we're going to discuss it as a matter of urgency. if council wants to move it, or do you want to leave it where it is? Basically, this is the RFP to complete the work on Royal Pines and to move forward with the pulverization of Crooked Rapid Road.
I believe we should move it to a matter of urgency.
Okay.
Does that mean I can hold the mover and seconder until we get there? Okay, thank you. Item 7.9 is the library report. I have a resolution that council accepts the June library and CEO reports as presented. Could I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Wright to Schoenfeld, seconded by Councillor Burnt. Any comments or questions?
I just have one question for you. Maria, there was a sign in the email for a book sale. Was that through the library or was that? through
No,
some-
there's just gonna be, long, yeah.
Pardon?
There's just gonna be the end of July.
Well, on last week there, it said signs in the email that there was a book sale on Saturday or Sunday.
Okay,
And I know some people went looking for it and,
It was the Horticultural Society?
oh, is that what it was?
Yes.
And,
So it was down past the fire hall at the garden center?
oh, okay. No, people were looking for it. I know people that went and couldn't find it.
yeah, no, ours is, the library one is at the end of the month, of this month.
I thought, I said to them, if it's at the, if it's the library putting on, it should be at the library, but they said we went there and there was nothing going on. So it wasn't used, but not there.
And how did the online auction go?
There were quite a few hits. I meant to call and find out what it is because, we're probably not having a meeting, so I'll have to, but it was pretty well participated.
It was well attended, so I'm curious as well to see how they fared out.
I want to find out who got the Fairfield, bottle of wine.
Any other comments or questions on the library report? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Councillor Burns,
Yes,
Councillor Buchwald,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes,
Councillor Wright Schoenfeld,
Yes,
and yes, it's carried. Thank you. So item 9.1 is the non-action items. I have a resolution that council accepts the non-action communication items as information. And I got a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Burke. Councillor Burke.
yes.
Sorry, did you have a question? Councillor?
I was going to, make a comment on the article that was in the Ottawa Valley Business.
Okay.
Did you speak, I don't know if anyone, took
On
note.
page 76 now.
Yeah,
I was gonna make a comment too.
yeah, because it went quite in depth about temporary living options in Naw, with a question mark.
But then the last statement says, the existing recreational home should also be approved through a permit system.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we never passed that.
I didn't think so. So I felt that there was a lot of latitude that was given in that article.
I agree.
I
Or,
guess my question would be, would council want to remove this from non-action and put it in action and send a letter of clarification?
it might well be worth, because it is misleading.
I agree.
So help me out, staff.
Try this.
I'll need a resolution to remove it from non-action.
yeah. council removes the June edition of the Ottawa Valley Business.
Yeah.
It's not
From
action.
non-action, yes. And since I have the current resolution in front of me, the council accepts non-action communication items as information. And I'll just add, with the exception of Ottawa Valley Business.
Okay.
So I'll call for the vote for this resolution. Councillor Hurst,
Yes.
Councillor Buchwald,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Becky Schoenfeld,
Yes,
and yes, carried. Thank you. So can we put it on the screen, the new resolution? Or is it easier to write one in?
Right?
So I'll actually just follow the agenda and I'll do 9.21 first. A resolution that the Council of North Algona Wilberforce Township endorse MP Peter Julian's private member's motion Motion M84, Anti-Hate Crimes and Incidents and his Private Members Bill C313, Banning Symbols of Hate Act. Can I get a mover and a second, please? Moved by Councilor Riker Schoenfeld, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Any comments or questions? Councilor Buckland.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable supporting this because it talks about more than just those two symbols, and it leaves a lot, in my opinion, it leaves a lot of things open for interpretation. I'm personally not comfortable supporting it. I understand the concept, and I agree with the concept of fighting hate and controlling those symbols. But I don't believe that this bill does it.
Thank you, Councilor Buckland. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Councilor Burns?
No.
Councilor Buckland?
No.
Councilor Robinson?
No.
Councilor Riker Schoenfeld?
Yes.
And I'm a no, so that one is defeated. Thank you. Item 9.2.2 is the Chicken Farmers of Ontario to nominate a frontline worker. I have a resolution that members of council choose to nominate a frontline worker using the link provided. Should I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councilor Byrne, seconded by Councilor Riker Schoenfeld. Comments, suggestions, Councilor Byrne?
Just that they were a big part of our community for years. They are deceased, but we nominate Kevin Kilby for his parents, because they were big chicken farmers and they were the largest chicken farmer ever in the township for years. Now, I don't know if that's.
Well, Kevin certainly is a frontline worker.
Oh, yeah, and like his parents did a lot for the community over the years. They are deceased, but they had the biggest chicken farm in Brantford County, I do, for years. And that's my 5 cents.
And my thought was, one person that comes to mind is actually sitting here with us, Chief Champ, because of all the work that he's done with the fire department, with the renovations with Golden Lake Hall, with the training and unifying of the fire departments.
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
I would prefer not. I think Mr. Kilby is an excellent choice, though, if you were looking for someone.
Any other, Councilor Riker Schoenfeld?
I was just thinking off the wall, and I know it's not one, but Dawn, she's really a frontline worker. It's not one that we think about, but she's the one at the counter, always talking to all the new residents coming in and people that are paying taxes or picking up information. I mean, she's kind of frontline for sure, but I know that's probably not a traditional one, so I just probably have to go with firefighter.
Fire paramedics,
Mhm,
nurses, doctors.
mhm.
Any other comments or suggestions?
As for Councillor Buckland, if he has any thoughts.
Councilor Buckland?
Any thoughts?
No suggestions at this time.
So if council's okay with Kevin Kilby, I certainly don't have a problem with it. So I will put his name on here. And I'll call the vote. Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Councilor Buckland?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Riker Schoenfeld?
Yes,
And yes, that's carried. Thank you. And so we're at 9.2.3, which is the Ottawa Valley Business News issue. Resolution that council directs staff to send a letter noting incorrect statements in the article. And again, mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Raggi-Schoenfeld. You're recording the votes, Laura? Okay. Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Buchwald,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Raggi-Schoenfeld.
Yes.
I'm a yes, that's carried. Thank you. That brings us to bylaws, item number 10. Now therefore, the Council of North Algona Wilberforce enact the following bylaws. Bylaw 2021-36, shoreline closure for Dolores and Terrence Martin. Bylaw 2021-37, agreement for Dolores and Terrence Martin. Bylaw 2021-38, shoreline closure for Terry Lynn Martin. Bylaw 2021-39, agreement for Terry Lynn Martin. Bylaw 2021-40, shoreline closure for Kim Renee Martin. Bylaw 2021-41, agreement for Kim Renee Martin. Bylaw 2021-42, shoreline closure for Ralph and Wendy Schultz. Bylaw 2021-43, agreement for Ralph and Wendy Schultz. Bylaw 2021-42, shoreline closure for Ronald Greer. Bylaw 2021-43, agreement for Ronald Greer. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Burnt. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councillor Burnt,
Yes.
Councillor Buchwald,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Raggi-Schoenfeld.
Yes.
I'm a yes, that's carried. Thank you. And so we're back to matters of urgency. And that would be our resolution for the award for RFP 2021 PW06. And I'll just ask staff now to speak to that, please.
So just a matter of procedure, because if you're bringing it as a matter of urgency, you should have 2/3 of council basically, their voice just say they agree to speak about it.
Okay, is council in agreement to speak to this item as a matter of urgency? See,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
we're good. And it's been moved by Councillor Raggi-Schoenfeld and seconded by Councillor Burke.
So if council, we're not going to work these. If council recalls, after our last tender went out and they came back so high, council decided that they'd like to try again for Royal Pines, because we didn't do Royal Pines, and also to move forward with some of the work on Crooked Rapids Road. And there was also discussion on moving forward with Pink Lake, but Pink Lake's not included in this. So we put a RFP out. And when we look at the budget that we have for the future for Crooked Rapids, and also this year's budget for the other road work, we come within our budget allocation. And we put the RFP out. We had 2 good bids by 2 competent contractors. Both met the RFP document requirements, and there's basically close to $20,000 difference. So if council approves this, we can award this tomorrow and work can start almost immediately. This is to finish up the 3.2 kilometers of Royal Pines and to completely pulverize and pack the Crooked Rapids so that next year we can actually do the construction. This technique works good within the compacting and pulverizing because it gives the road a chance to settle and you can work on any spot that fails in the spring as opposed to putting 18 inches of gravel on the whole road.
Any comments or questions from council? Councilor Burke?
On Crooked Rapids, that's just going to be pulverized and,
The entire length will be pulverized, then we would pack it. An expense that we would do ourselves is we would put magnesium chloride down just to keep the dust down and have the road packed tightly to keep the dust and the road to keep together for the winter.
but that doesn't include no culvert replacement or nothing. That would come next year.
The culverts and the road top would come next year as part of a larger job.
Councilor Robinson?
I guess how close to the budget is it? Because I know the last one was way off.
I was very pleased with the numbers that we got with this, but as Michelle, as far as budget, we're within our budget.
Councilor Redpath?
But that's kind of a red herring also because we had thought we were gonna do many more roads, but then the quotes came in so much higher. So I mean, it's within our budget on these 2 new sets of roads we did, but really what we decided when we were doing our budget deliberations isn't really what we're gonna end up with. But that's out of our control also. But I mean, it's just something to note that we're within our budget, but really not getting what
But
we
not
want,
quite.
or not what we expected.
We're not getting the extent of the work done.
Which leads it to the being like, you know, we passed the budget early, is it better than somehow can we tender the roads ahead of time, so then when we get to the nitty gritty of the budget, then we'd be able to say, yeah, we only can do these roads because this is the only money we have, as opposed to what we did now, is we kind of said, these roads are the most important, so we're going to take the monies that we had allotted for all these roads and just stick it to these 2. I don't know if that's a possibility or.
Well, I think one of the, and maybe I'll let staff speak to, one of the suggestions was that we will re-tender these roads or later in the year, maybe November, December, so that we have an idea of pricing.
Right.
So that way we get ahead of some of the other municipalities, because the sooner you get your tenders out, the technically the better pricing you get. Does staff want to add anything?
So the resolution that came before council before that you would re-tender at the end of the year with pre-budget approval for 2022. You pretty well have, before you tender, you have to have it in your budget, you have to have it approved. Otherwise, you're probably not going to get very many bids because you're not going to bid on something that doesn't exist.
Right.
Any other questions or comments?
what was, when we tender, well, when we did our budget, what was the budget amount that we put in there for Royal Pines? Michelle, do you have that answer, or
Not for me,
it's like 400,000 there?
It was in it was just about $200,000. Well, we moved it up to 63 or something because last year. It was under $300,000. I will say that because I reviewed these numbers, this was a more competitive bid because we had 2 bids basically. Competitive pricing than we had in the last one.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwald,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Redpath.
Yes,
Yes, that is carried. Thank you. So item 14.1 is With regards to summer hours, I have a resolution that council accepts the summer hours report as presented and closes the township office on Wednesdays for July and August in 2021 and 2022. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Buckwell, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Comments, questions? Councillor Buckwell.
Thank you. I know we discussed it at a previous meeting and we asked for it to be brought back. And I know one of the concerns that was raised at the time, one of the comments made was that it's a service that we're taking from the ratepayers. And I have to disagree with that. We're not actually taking a service away from them. What we're doing is we're reallocating our resources so that they can actually do more beneficial work. If we have this dedicated day for staff to work on projects that can benefit larger groups, larger issues, grant applications, program improvements, that sort of thing, I don't think that's taking something away. I think that's adding a value for our ratepayers. And when I got thinking about this, you'll see my background tonight is our decision board. And I kind of reviewed that when thinking about it. So is there a value to the community? Does it benefit the residents? Absolutely. It gives them an opportunity to get projects done that may not otherwise get done if there's interruptions during the day. Are there financial implications? Is it aligned with our goals? I think so. We're not increasing the labor costs to get dedicated work done. So I think that's a good use of resources. I think it represents the vision of the township that, let's find efficiencies. Let's make things work better as opposed to doing them the same old way as we've done it for years, with no other reason that it's the same old way that we've done it for years, which also demonstrates leadership as opposed to just going with the status quo. And is it aligned with community needs? Absolutely. We have a need to get these projects done. We have a need to get these grant applications in. And I think it's a much better option to have dedicated time set aside for that than it is to squeeze it in whenever you can around other things. So, yeah, I would support as a trial. I don't think we can do it for July this year because we're already into July and there's really not time to get the advertising, get the word out. I think we can do it for August, maybe September of this year, and then July and August of next year, again, when the volumes are a little bit lower. But yeah, I think this is something that is worth a try. If we find that it doesn't work, if we find that there are a number of ratepayers that are affected by it, then by all means, we can always revisit it, but we're not going to know unless we try. And I think it's a cost-effective way to get some dedicated time for our staff to work on special projects.
Thank you. Councillor Rehabilitation.
I have to agree with many of Councillor Buckwell's arguments. The only problem that I see is if we believe that staff needs dedicated time, then to me, throughout the year, they should have dedicated time, not just 2 months of the summer. So, I mean, I don't know if there's been any statistics that said most grant applications and projects are heavily slotted towards July and August. And I wouldn't know that because I'm not in charge of that. But getting back to what we have discussed previous, I truly think that the township office should be open up every day except for the holidays that we have voted on.
Andrew, did you have your hand up for a comment?
Oh, I was just listening to.
Oh, okay. Councillor Robinson.
Upon reflection and sort of listening to what Councillor Buckwell has said, the fact that if Wednesday is the low peak time, which is what is stated in the report, then the impact on our ratepayers would be at its minimum, and which at the same time, and it's not like we're not going to answer the phones because we're here. It's just that the doors are not open.
And I guess I would like to say as well, I mean, something that COVID has taught us is that we can do things differently, and we have done things differently for the past almost 2 years, where people weren't even coming into the office because of COVID restrictions. And they started doing more of their work through, whether it's online, through its, internet banking, et cetera. And I do believe when we look at the pricing that came in on our roads this year, it's more important than ever, because the three sources of income we have are growth, taxes, or grants. And we, I think, need to be taking advantage as much as we can of every grant that's out there. And if staff have to be investing their time in preparing for day-to-day interaction with the public and or even preparing for council meetings, that's taking time away from time they could be putting in on grant applications. So I did the same thing Councillor Buckle did. I went through our 5 questions on our decision dashboard, and I think I can answer them all that this is probably worth a try. It's a good idea. And just as we heard in our training, do we continue doing what we've always done just because it's been a practice, not necessarily because it might be the most efficient way to deliver a service? Or do we try something different? If it doesn't work, we can always go back to status quo. Councillor Rector,
I think the last time the discussion came up, Councillor Robinson had a good suggestion where, like, let's say Wednesday would be Karen's day, so her door would be shut and she'd be working on her special projects with no interruptions, and maybe the next Wednesday it would be Michelle's day, and maybe the next day it would be Laura's day, and we just rotate. That's thinking outside the box, but yet still maintaining the office open all the time. But in the end, we can agree to disagree, and when we vote, we'll ask what we think.
So, yes, Councillor Burke and then Councillor Robinson.
I still feel it's a service that we're taking away from our residents, and they're the people that's paying the wages for all of us here, and I don't agree with it. We're here to serve the residents of our township.
Councillor Robinson?
I guess, how are we gonna gauge if this is effective? That would be sort of my, like, we're gonna put this on trial, but how are we gonna know that it's effective or not? So
I guess we have to rely on the feedback from the staff.
I think from staff and from ratepayers, if we do find that we have ratepayers coming to the door and having a negative experience, I would hope that they would advise us of that and let us know. And I think it would be incumbent on staff to track that sort of information so that we can see whether or not, if it's working from the staff's perspective, is this, this one day working? I know that Councillor Recchi Shainfeld had mentioned, and we had talked about this, one person coming off each day to keep the office open. But sometimes you've got more than one staff member working on the projects, supporting each other. So is that going to be the most effective way? I think dedicating the 1 day a week would, where everybody can work on projects, would be best. But again, we find out, again, get staff. Is this working for them? Is it improving their productivity on these programs? Are we getting complaints or concerns from ratepayers? And again, I think that would be a responsibility that we would put on staff to track that, and let's report back to council, at the end of August. So in the September meeting, what were your observations? What comments did you get from ratepayers about it? Right? Was it legitimate ratepayer concerns, or was it venting? Right? That sort of thing. We're not going to know if we don't try. We may find that it doesn't work. We may find that it's very efficient. And for the sake of trying it for a month this year and 2 months next year, I think it's a cost-effective way to find out if there is a more effective way of doing it.
I also think the messaging is important, that it's not that staff won't be in the office, staff will still be here, it's just that the door won't be open, and that they'll be still doing their business and projects and grants, etc. So they are still giving the service to our residents. The only thing that's not happening is that the walk-up traffic is not happening on that specific day. Yes. And
So I didn't want to weigh in, but I know that, you know, the management of the facility is basically, you know, my job and Michelle's, but for council to understand what we're actually suggesting that we're doing. And we talk about, you know, staff will still have to answer the phone, but the doors will be locked. That's not the way we would manage it. If we advertise that the office is closed, the doors are closed, and some person walks off the street and you didn't know that and knocks on the door, we're going to serve that person. The management part that becomes very difficult is the telephone itself. And what we plan to do is have the proper messaging in the telephone, and one of us will be checking messages throughout the day. So if there's something that has to be dealt with that day, we would still deal with it. If it's Mr. Smith calling about something and he doesn't have anything to say, he just wants to talk tomorrow or something, that's okay. So we'd be able to handle urgent things if someone comes off the street. So it's not like totally closed, it's just we're managing it a different way. We're directing our resources to the projects, and we're not taking all those phone calls, because phone calls take up a large portion of the day. And a lot of the phone calls, you know, could be unnecessary phone calls or calls that can wait. That's what we're talking, just managing our time, as opposed to closing.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Burke.
And another thing we have to consider, the month of August, to close the office on Wednesday, is the month of August is the month that people have to then pay their taxes, and like, maybe some people work and they feel if you only make it on Wednesday, like, I don't know, I think the office should be left open.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Councilor Burke?
No.
Councilor Buchwald?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Reckless-Schonfeld?
No,
I mean, yes, because I think it's worth a try, and you never know if it's gonna work if you don't try, so. That's carried. Item 14.2 is Melissa Bishop, A Group, and the Tokyo Olympics. And this was just added because it came up through a request from the group that did some of the Melissa Bishop parade and I shouldn't say propaganda, but promotion for Melissa at the last Olympics. And they sent an email to myself and to Warden Murphy in Eganville. Warden Murphy and I have certainly spoke about this, so I just asked staff if they could add it to the agenda for today. So in case we here at council or staff have some ideas on something that we might be able to do to support Melissa in her journey to the Tokyo Olympics. Does staff have anything else to add?
So just to let council know, we've already, on behalf of council and the residents, added Melissa to our electronic sign and basically supporting her, cheering her on. And for the public's information, we've added to the agenda the Olympic Commission's official biography on Melissa Bishop.
Yes, Councilor Reckless.
Just as a little thank you to Melissa, because she has represented our township very well, and we have a park named after her, and she does collect Christmas decorations. I'm just wondering if somebody could maybe commission or do a non-Christmas decoration that at some point in time we could send to her, or send it to Doug and Austin, and they could get it to her. It could be just something even like our logo on piece of wood or something. It might be just a nice tester. I always think, you know, always thinking, just a random thought.
Can we bring a report back to council with that?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe a big gold wouldn't do it.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh.
So we don't need a resolution, just
I think we do.
direction that staff come back with it. Okay.
That could be a project they do. I don't know. That's a Wednesday project.
There might even be somebody in the volunteer in the community who would want to take that on.
No, there might be. That would be cool.
I think of the young McMillan boy who has that business with all the unique wood that he
Yeah.
finds.
Mhm.
He might be willing to
Do something.
take something like
Maybe
that.
for free.
That's right, which would even be better.
Mhm.
So item number 15 is moving into close. I have a resolution that council go into closed session for 3 personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local court employees. Councillor Buckrow,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Reggie Schoenfeld,
Yes.
yes, carried, thank you.
Yeah.
So we need the resolution that you're typing right now.
Yeah.
And that would be 16.2. Resolution that staff take action as directed by council in regards to communication committee. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Reggie Schoenfeld. Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Buckwald,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Reggie Schoenfeld.
Yes.
I'm a yes, that's carried. And so then we go to our confirmatory bylaw, item number 17, that's bylaw 2021-46, being the bylaw to confirm proceedings of council for July 6, 2021. We read the first and second time the 6th day of July 2021. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Burns. We read the third time and final pass the 6th day of July 2021. Councillor Burns,
Yes.
Councillor Buckwald,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Reggie Schoenfeld,
Yes.
and a yes, carried, thank you. Item number 15 is adjournment. We have a resolution that this regular meeting of council adjourns at 9:17 p.m. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Reggie Schoenfeld, seconded by Councillor Buckwald. Councillor Burke,
Yes.
Councillor Buckwald,
Yes.
Councillor Robinson,
Yes.
Councillor Reggie Schoenfeld,
Yes.
and a yes, that's carried. We are adjourned.